We usually look for big spiritual truths in old books or quiet meditations, right? But what if I told you one of the most profound spiritual questions is being broadcast all around us? And I mean in places we'd never think to look, like in hit movies and on the radio. In this explainer, we're going to unpack a source that claims exactly that.
So, what do ancient legends about the Holy Grail, a mind-bending movie like The Matrix, an epic saga like The Lord of the Rings, and a classic rock song all have in common? I know, it sounds like the start of a bad joke, but according to the source material we're looking at, the connection is no joke at all. It's actually a powerful message, hiding in plain sight.
See, these stories aren't just entertainment. The source we're digging into today suggests they're like modern-day parables. They're echoes of things happening in higher spiritual realms, trying to break through into our world and give us a little hint about what's really going on.
And that gets us to the first big idea: how these messages are delivered. It's not always through a prophet or a sacred text. Sometimes the most critical information we could ever receive is hidden inside a summer blockbuster or a song that you just can't get out of your head.
This brings up this really fascinating concept of unconscious channels. The idea is that artists, musicians, writers, directors, can become conduits. They can channel these higher messages into their art. And here's the kicker: they might not even realize the full spiritual weight of what they're actually creating.
But, and this is a huge but, it's a two-way street. The source argues that while forces of light use art to wake us up, forces of the dark use the exact same channels to push us in the opposite direction, toward moral decay. So pop culture becomes this kind of spiritual battleground, and we're the ones standing in the middle, choosing which frequency to tune into.
Okay, so that's the theory, but let's get specific. How does this actually look in the real world? Well, our source points to one very specific and honestly kind of surprising example. We're going to zoom in on one song that supposedly lays this all out perfectly.
This one song, the source claims, is this incredibly direct reminder of a choice that every single one of us has to make, whether we like it or not. And the artist behind it? None other than Bob Dylan, with his 1979 song, Gotta Serve Somebody.
That's it. That's the core message, right there in the chorus. An unavoidable black and white choice. The source argues that the entire rest of the song is basically Dylan just providing the evidence, proving that this rule is universal and there are absolutely no exceptions.
And this gets us to the heart of it all. This isn't a choice you can just ignore or sit out. According to this perspective, every single thing you do, every action you take, consciously or not, is an act of service to one side or the other.
To put it plainly, there's no neutral ground here. No Switzerland. Whether we realize it or not, every decision, every word, every thought is pushing us one way or the other, aligning us with one of two fundamental powers in the universe.
So what does that service actually look like? Well, serving what the source calls the Lord is about any action that helps you grow spiritually, that helps you wake up to who you really are. And on the flip side, serving the devil is anything that contributes to moral confusion and keeps us asleep, spiritually speaking. The big takeaway is that neutrality is just an illusion.
Now you're probably thinking, okay, but surely there are exceptions, right? What about people who are their own boss? Well, the source uses Dylan's lyrics to argue pretty convincingly that this rule is absolute. It applies to every person no matter who you are or what you do.
Let's just look at the lyrics. Dylan starts at the very top. He's talking about people at the absolute peak of society, an ambassador who shapes world events, a heavyweight champion famous across the globe. These are people who seem to be the masters of their own universe.
And the point he's making is crystal clear. Even if you have climbed to the highest rung on the ladder, you are not exempt. Your power, your fame, your status, none of it buys you a pass on this fundamental choice. You still gotta serve somebody.
Then he does something really clever. He puts a respected businessman right next to a professional thief, a doctor who heals right next to a powerful chief. He's deliberately mixing the roles we see as good and bad to show that in this spiritual context, those labels we use just don't matter.
So whether your job is seen as noble or illegal, whether people look up to you or look down on you, it's totally irrelevant. According to this view, the underlying spiritual law applies to everyone no matter what.
And he just keeps going, stripping away every other distinction we could possibly use to get out of this. Rich or poor, doesn't matter. Able-bodied or not, doesn't matter. Living in a palace or a shack, nope, still doesn't matter. He systematically removes every single excuse.
I mean, just look at this list when you see it all laid out. It's staggering. Socialites, construction workers, preachers, network executives. He covers the whole spectrum of humanity to hammer home one single point. Nobody is off the hook. This spiritual choice, it turns out, is the one great equalizer.
So all of this brings us to the final part of the message. After making it clear that this choice is absolute and universal, the whole thing pivots from a big abstract idea to a very, very personal question.
And this is really the final takeaway from our source. Because these messages are hidden in our culture, in our movies, in our music, nobody can really turn around and say, well, I didn't know. Think about it. It's Neo choosing the red pill or the blue pill. It's Frodo deciding to take the ring to Mordor. The message is out there if you're willing to see it.
Which, of course, leaves us with the exact same question the song and the source material is asking each of us, directly. With every choice we make, we're answering it. So, the only thing left to do is to reflect on the question right here on your screen.